From a Blue Curtain concert to right into reading you Fiddler's Talisman. So it starts out, and people think that it is a YA novel. It's not exactly a YA novel. It's got more going on than that, but yeah. So maybe it'll open. I don't know. Anyway, it starts out with a kind of a not for children scene, if you will. So I want you to understand that and be okay with that. It's not, what is going on? Somehow, this is wackadoo. Okay, come on! It won't open. Now it won't, yeah, I don't know what's going on. It keeps trying to connect and it's not happening. So I'm not sure what's going on. Let's try one last time. Anyway, this is not a, well, maybe I'll be able to just read it this way because there we go. Haha. All right, so this is my very first fiction book. It's called The Fiddler's Talisman. It's book 1 of the Fairy Godmother Diaries series, and we're going to see what it's like. I have not had the oomph to do the audiobook of this, so you all are getting to hear it before anybody else does. So this is The Fiddler's Talisman, and this right now is the prologue read to you by the author, Isolde Trachtenberg. Joanna played the violin concerto and entranced the class. The musical waterfall of the Mozart piece caused part of their euphoria. Joanna herself inspired the rest. Her radiance affected all but one of the room's occupants. Zeke Dunn, the teaching assistant for the violin performance class, waited for the right moment. When Joanna was immersed in the music, he waved his hand and froze everyone else in the room. For a few seconds, they neither saw nor heard a thing. Captivated by the music, Joanna didn't notice the change. Dunn reached into Joanna's book bag and removed a piece of sheet music. He hid it among his own things. With another wave of his hand, he returned the class to rights, and Joanna finished the piece to elated silence. "That was great, Joanna. Now let's hear the Prokofiev," he said. "I haven't memorized it yet, so I'll need the sheet music." Joanna cradled her violin in one hand and searched her book bag for the sheet music with the other. "I'm sorry, Mr. Dunn," she turned to him. "I guess I must have left it in my room." "And that's why I'm so glad Juilliard is such a small place," Dunn said. "Why don't you go get it, and then we'll hear you at the end of class." He smiled and turned his attention to the next student while Joanna nestled her violin and bow back in the case. She made her way out of the classroom and into the halls of the Juilliard School. She left the elevator on the 13th floor of her dorm, the Rose Building, and made her way to room 1313, which she shared with her roommate Chloe. Most people were in the class, so the entire place sat silent until she reached her room. There she heard the unmistakable sounds of sex. "Oh, Chloe," Joanna thought, "I hope this one treats you right." She opened the door and headed to a room to pick up the Prokofiev sheet music, but her steps stilled when a familiar voice moaned from behind Chloe's door. "Do it. Oh yeah, just like that," he growled. In a daze, Joanna moved to Chloe's door and opened it. The sight that greeted her devastated her. Her boyfriend of 2 months, Marcus Shepard, lay below Chloe as she writhed on top of him. "Marcus? What are you doing?" Joanna's shocked voice cut through their rutting. Marcus rolled from beneath Chloe and looked at Joanna with contempt. "Look, I needed to get laid, and I was getting tired of waiting." He got dressed as Chloe sat numb and silent on the edge of the bed. Joanna stood, rooted to the spot. "Maybe next time you won't take so long to make up your mind." Marcus walked by her and left the room. Chloe shivered as if waking from some sort of dream. She covered herself with a sheet and stared at Joanna, mortified. "Oh my God, Joe! Oh my God, I'm so sorry! I didn't mean to..." Joanna turned, walked to her bedroom, and shut the door. After a time, a hesitant knock sounded. "Joanna? May I come in, please?" Chloe opened the door a crack. The light shone on Joanna's anguished face. "I don't know what happened. What can I do?" Chloe asked miserably. A beautiful young woman, she knew she could have had her pick of guys. She still wasn't sure why she had chosen Marcus. "You can go," Joanna whispered from her bed. "Just go." "Okay," Chloe replied. "I'm gone." Chapter 1. Oh, the time had come. I couldn't avoid it any longer. I needed to do Joanna's life book review, and I already knew that nothing had changed in the land of hearts and flowers. At least I can do it with a shot or two of whiskey to ease the way, I thought as I headed to the Storm Tavern. I wandered to the Any Port in a Storm Tavern. Yes, we have puns too, and no, they're no better than the Magic Realms than in yours. Margaretha had the wall's mood dampener on, so they were a lovely periwinkle twilight with a few winking stars. It pays to dampen the mood stuff when you have a lot of fairy godparents drinking. The battle of whirling colors and shapes could get even the Buddha sick to his stomach. I sat in a plush blue easy chair and floated it to the bar. "Hey, Mar, how about a Jameson's neat?" "Hi, Evie." Mar spared me a smile as she supervised the crew of sponges cleaning the birch counter. A purple headband held back her long black dreadlocks as she bounced to the beat of a jazz combo on the radio. "Aren't you on duty?" she said. "How about some hot cocoa instead?" "That'd be great, just as long as there's a shot of whiskey in it." "I don't think so," Mar replied, eyes twinkling. A steaming mug of hot chocolate appeared in front of me. "Man, I hate it when people's eyes twinkle when they won't give you what you want. It's so patronizing." I drew myself up to my full, less than impressive height and stared up at her haughtily. "Margaretha Swanglider. I am a level 3 fairy godmother. I have been at this gig for 227 years. Besides, I'm just doing my charge reviews, so it's not like I have a lot going on." I took the life book out of my bag and placed it on the bar. Life books are pretty cool. There are about 3 or 4 pictures on every page, and each one chronologically highlights a pivotal moment in the subject's life. You can look at either stills or moving pictures depending on what you need. So it's like a This Is Your Life episode, only on steroids. "Is that Joanna's life book?" Mar asked. "Yeah, and nothing ever happens to her that isn't awesome. I've got to say, ever since I won her case, it's kind of been one long snooze." Mar stopped cleaning and studied me. "You know, they gave her protection from all harm for a reason." Yeah, she's all powerful and mystical and magically protected against banes and stuff, and her happiness keeps everyone else up to their eyebrows in hearts and flowers. But she's never so much as skipped school. It's making me twitchy." I flipped open her life book to a random page. It contained 3 pictures, and each image depicted a pivotal moment in Joanna's life. The top image showed her at 4 years old, already playing the violin. I touched my wand to the image, and it animated. The little girl in the picture moved and played, and the sound that emanated was pure and gorgeous. "See? She certainly didn't need any help here." I picked another page. "Or what about this one from last week at school?" The image showed Joanna, her boyfriend Marcus, and her roommate Chloe eating at lunch at the Juilliard cafeteria. The oak walls and the light from the city outdoors shone on them. I touched my wand to the image and animated it. Chloe, a flute performance major at the school, said, "So then," he said, "what do you mean I have to pay for the ticket? It's your car." Why are all guys such jerks?" Joanna touched her arm sympathetically and said, "Sweetie, they aren't all jerks. I'm sure you'll find someone, and soon. You're so wonderful, how can you not?" "Promise? Because I feel like I've kissed way more than my share of frogs." "I promise," Joanna replied with certainty. "Right, Marcus?" Marcus smiled at Chloe. "Absolutely," he said. The image stilled, and I closed the life book. "And you should see her talisman," I continued. "It's so bright and shiny it hurts my eyes. There's not even a speck of doubt or sadness in it." "Regardless," Mar said, "if you're on duty, you're drinking cocoa." My ire deflated like one of those ridiculous floating puppet things they use to get your attention at used car dealerships. "Fine, I'll take it," I grumbled. She handed me the mug. Just then, one of the candles that adorned the bar blazed brightly, and a tiny face peered out of the flame. "Evie, thank goodness I found you. I need your help," a voice cried out of the candle's flame. Round eyes and elfin features separated out of the flame as the fire fairy formed. Fire fairies like to travel on sunbeams, and since the sun had set, Torlin Sunrider had used another, more expedient method. The head and body emerged out of the flame, and Torlin floated above us. In her hands she held a small jar that contained a firefly. "Torlin, sweetie, what's going on?" I asked, concerned. Torlin always knew what to do. If she needed my help, trouble was brewing. "It's Laylee. Something's terribly wrong," she said. "What about her? Where is she?" Torlin held up the jar. "She's right here." "Wait, what? The firefly? That's your sister? What happened?" I asked, shocked. "I don't know. She was doing a flyby in New York, and suddenly her fire felt different to me. I went out there and found her like this." In her agitation, sparks flew from Torlin's flame body. I took the jar out of her hands and studied it. I had no idea what to do, but I was going to do something. There was no way I'd let Laylee stay like this. No way. Evie, Torlin whispered, please help me. Help her. Absolutely. We're going to figure it out, Torlin. Come on. Let's go see the tribunal. We need bigger fish for this. I opened my bag and made to put away the lifebook when I noticed Joanna's talisman. It had always glowed with an iridescent sort of inner flame. Now it was dingy and dark brown with no luster whatsoever. I removed it from the bag and showed it to Mar and Torlin. Oh, my stars, Mar exclaimed. This is bad, I said. This is very bad. Wait. I withdrew the lifebook back out of my bag. If her talisman is messed up, something's happened. I opened the book and turned to the last page that contained an image. The image showed Joanna's shocked eyes as she saw... What? I touched my wand to the picture. We saw through Joanna's eyes as she watched Chloe gyrate on top of Marcus. Joanna's shock and grief overwhelmed us through the image, and we all shrank away from that much pain. I could only imagine what it did to any fairies who happened to be close by. As understanding dawned, I said, Torlin, was Laylee near Juilliard when you found her? Yes, she was right near Lincoln Center. I don't know how, but I think I know what happened. Come on, we've got to go. We made our way to the tribunal chambers. I pulled on the round brass handles and we entered through the massive oak doors. The entire tribunal sat on its dais. They murmured and argued amongst themselves and ignored us. I stopped right before the chief's throne and called, Honored tribunal members, we have a serious problem. The arguing continued, and I realized I was going to have to announce my presence with authority. I raised the jar above my head a la Norma Ray and yelled, Hello! We need help! Something's happened to Laylee Sunrider. We need to fix it, and right now. The chief separated himself from the rest of the group. Godmother Songbottom, we know there's a problem. The alarm bells went off about half an hour ago, and the data is still coming in. The room had begun to fill with fairies as more and more heard the news. Now a colorful but nervous throng filled the room to capacity. The vice tribunal chief stood and talked to us. Not only Laylee Sunrider, but mermaid Elnora Seafarer changed into a fish, and imp Geron Featherduster transformed into a plain dust ball. Shouts of, "Oh my stars, and what happened?" rang throughout the room. The chief held up his hands and the crowd quieted to a dull roar. Everyone, we must resolve this crisis quickly. 3 have been changed, and more might succumb. But what caused it? Someone yelled from the crowd. The chief looked pointedly at me. A pulse of deadening energy triggered these transformations. The epicenter of the pulse came from the Juilliard School of Music in New York City. Many of you have charges there, but only one charge has the power to do this. Everyone turned their eyes to me. What, Joanna? I said, shocked. No, there's no way. She's the Hearts and Flowers girl. She'd never do something like this. Torlin floated by my side and whispered, Evie, she might not mean it. She might not even know she did it. I mean, look at her talisman. We know it happened, and we know Joanna Brennan's grief over her boyfriend's betrayal sparked the energy pulse, the chief announced. Then he sighed. We protected her from all harm, but you couldn't protect her from being betrayed. The clue bell finally rang loud and clear inside my head. I held up the jar. And that's what caused this? I asked. Yes, and now you must fix it, the chief replied. You won her talisman, and you're the one responsible. Responsible? I'm only a level 3. I have no idea how to fix this. I could tell by his wide, squirming eyes and undulating ears that he was just plumb too scared to take care of it. You will enroll at Juilliard and become her new roommate. Then you can rectify these tragic events, the chief stated. But I don't know how to do that. Besides, I didn't do all that great in school the first time. No way am I doing it again. Send someone else. Parsnip a road spinner, bane to good times everywhere, pushed her way to the dais. As usual, she wore her dark gray tunic long and her ramrod's straight gray hair back. She's right. She should not be sent. She's incompetent and she lacks focus. Hey! I prepared to defend my shoddy honor. Parsnip continued over me. I will go. I will take care of this immediately. She should never have been approved for this case. She tried to skewer me with a glance, but she was lame, and I knew it. Joanna Brennan needs a firmer hand, she stated. The chief looked like he would much rather eat old shoes with Tabasco sauce than be here right now, but somehow he stood his ground. Godmother Roadspinner, not only did Godmother Songbottom win Joanna's case, but she is the most musical of any in the Godparent Guild. She is the best suited to resolve this crisis. He looked at me. Get Joanna back on track. Make her feel better. If you do not, we will have to call on the Ramrocks. At the mention of the Ramrocks, a collective shudder raced through the crowd. The Ramrocks? Are you serious? I cried. But that's overkill. They won't make her feel better. They'll end her. Everyone in the room shifted uncomfortably, but no one contradicted me. Be that as it may, the chief said, the Ramrocks are our last defense, and we will call on them if you can't turn Joanna around. You have 1 week. Do not fail. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. The Ramrocks. This was beyond the pale, but it was also the reality of the situation. Okay, got it. Fix it or Joanna dies. I'm on it. I turned to Torlin and made a promise I hoped I'd be able to keep. We'll get Laylee back. I'll make sure of it. They parted for me like the Red Sea as I made my way out of the room. Great, I sighed as I left the chamber. Just great. How am I supposed to fix this mess, especially with no one to help me? The chief was a major pain in my butt. He'd been weaseling his way out of doing any serious work for the last 200 years. Sure, he was all about going to court and schmoozing the ladies, and it didn't matter which court or which ladies either. But when it came time to get his hands dirty, it was always someone else's job. I mean, look at Snow White. She should have never been caught by that sleep spell. That's rookie stuff. The chief hadn't bothered to oversee her properly, and she'd been his charge after all. Then the whole realm ended up paying for it for a long time. Her real mother was part fairy, and that meant it was personal. The chief was a level 5 godparent. He was supposed to protect her until she could marry, become queen, and rule well and wisely. But no, he was too busy drinking mead and flirting with barmaids to pay any attention. And Cinderella? Don't even get me started on her. Not that we have the power of life and death or anything, but her father was not supposed to leave her in that awful mess. In fact, Georgina Silversmock, my mentor incidentally, had to think pretty fast to work that one out when the chief palmed off that fiasco on her. She was good at her job, though. She taught me everything I know, and now she's enjoying her retirement in Hawaii. Good for her, I say. I can only hope someday to fill her slippers. You're probably wondering about all these fairy tales. They weren't real stories, you're probably thinking. She's full of crap, or maybe she's trying to pull one over on me. That's where you'd be wrong. They were real. Sure, some of the names have been changed to protect the not-so-innocent, but a lot of those fictional tales happen pretty much as you've read or seen them. You see, someone a few generations ago found, stole, and sold the Godparent Diaries to the highest bidder, and all our stories came to light. Certainly, most people can't handle the truth. You gotta love Jack Nicholson in that movie. Yeah, I have a DVD player and I know how to use it. So a fairy godmother has a weakness for Hollywood blockbusters. So sue me. Anyway, you call them fairy tales and you don't believe them. Take it as you want. I know what happened. I was pretty young at the time, but I was there and I saw what some of these FGs had to go through to protect their charges. And now, it was my turn. I knew I had to take the situation in hand and deal with Joanna. When I officially took on her case on her 18th birthday, I thought she'd be a no-brainer. She was talented, open, joyful, and the magical lineage certainly went back as far as the eye could see. She seemed like she'd be an easy case, and I'd be able to spend time on my other charges. I guess I was being prejudiced. I believed if you had fairies for ancestors, then you didn't need that much help. I thought we'd have a terrific time, she would achieve extraordinary things, and I'd help her do 'em. Now, she'd caught her asshat of a boyfriend in a cliché with Chloe, and things were going to go to hell in a handbasket. Geron Featherduster turned into a dust pillar, and Elnora had turned into an actual fish. And of course, poor Laylee had become a firefly. Don't get me wrong, fireflies are terrific, but there's a gigantic difference between a firefly and a fire fairy. I needed to figure out a way to change her back and help everyone else, too. I just hoped it wasn't too late. You might be asking yourself about the extent of my duties. You might also be asking yourself what I can do. How to explain? Nah, that'd take too long. Let me sum up. I love me some Inigo Montoya. My wand, you see, is only a focusing tool. Remember that the next time one of you youngsters gets the bright idea to steal it. Heinrich Zauberling of the Sorcerer's Apprentice fame tried, and we all saw how that turned out. I guess some things maybe are best left a mystery. Let's just say that I can change one thing into another. I can make things appear and disappear, and best of all, I can change human perception. Often, the ability to create illusion is all I need to get things done. Was Cinderella actually wearing a gown made of spun gold, or did you all just think she was? What's really going to bake your cake is when you start wondering if it even mattered whether or not she wore it. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, Joanna. I guess in order to make heads or tails of this, I'm going to have to go back to the beginning. See, I told you I loved Inigo Montoya. Joanna was born, and the amount of sheer magical energy she put out the instant she was in the world set off every alarm in the magic realms. Every single FG's wand started humming as if they were all playing a John Philip Sousa march. She tugged us all toward her like the proverbial moths. Everyone had to see her, and everyone had to bask in that tiny, vibrant glow. At the hospital, the ancients ceremonially blessed her. Yeah, at the hospital. A huge number of FGs and other magical creatures showed up for this baby blessing. Let me tell you, that's a pretty cramped space for so many fluttering wings and billowing gowns. I'm not sure why so many FGs prefer the whole gossamer ephemeral wardrobe thing, but boy are we into our fluttering sparklies. Me, I tend to go for black silk shirts, combat boots, and jeans that don't cut off my circulation. Truth be told, I'm just a little bit vain about my long auburn hair and baby blues, and the black sets both off pretty nicely. Okay, wait, let's get back to the hospital. Do you ever wonder what happens in those baby nurseries at night? Ever wonder why visiting hours end so early? I mean, come on, 8 p.m.? Most of you are just getting off work and have precious little time to visit, but the hospital has some pretty strict rules about when all of you have to get out. It pays to have fairies who are good administrators, and that's all I'm saying about that. At any rate, we do some of our best work in hospitals after dark. People who are born need to be blessed. People who die need to be reassured that things are okay, and that while this rest stop is over, there's still a good bit to the journey. Souls need to be reassigned to fit into new bodies, or they need to be moved on their way to their next stop, wherever that may be. We're pretty busy from 8 p.m. till 6 a.m. There's always too much work to be done. Without espresso, I'd never get anything accomplished. See, here's the thing, and it's remarkably simple. What happens to you is what you believe will happen to you. Descartes was mostly right, and a genius in the kitchen, by the way. His crepes are to die for. He said, I think, therefore I am, and it's more like, I believe, therefore everything else is. So, if we all agree that the sky is blue, why then it's blue. And if we all agree that ghosts exist, why then they do too. If we all agree that the end of the world is near, then that's going to happen as well. Don't kid yourself. Movies like Deep Impact or Meteor or whatever don't have to be the way things end. In fact, so few of you believe that is how it might happen that the odds of a big old rock hitting the earth are pretty astronomical. However, the more of you who believe one thing over another, the likelier the odds are that scenario is going to happen. It's like the energy from your beliefs spins these things into existence. So, the more who believe in something, the more likely it is to occur or to be. You might take a moment to say thanks right now to all the kooks who still believe that this world is a good place, because they are the ones who keep it that way. Without them, we'd all be screwed. Most of you tend to look askance at the rest of the world, but some of you, you truly embrace it. And that makes all the difference. Some people are born special. They retain their belief in magic and wonder, and they keep it alive for the rest of you who can't or won't. In many ways, they who wonder and sit in awe of the fact that flowers bloom are the ones who keep them blooming. The ones who live for watching the sunrise help it rise each day. The ones who wish on the first star of the evening are the ones who coax that star to come out every night. They keep things going for the rest of us. Joanna was one of those, so we had expectations. We made assumptions, and I'm not going to bore you with the "you know what happens when you assume" line. You know where it's going anyway. You see, after the birth, we're usually required to wait and watch for the first 18 years. Sure, we watch over you and guide you, surreptitiously, but you generally have that acceptance of the miraculous thing down pretty well. You seem to lose it as you get older, and that's when we can get actively involved. Something about college and hormones gets you all distracted, and then we can do our jobs. We try to keep you all from getting into too much trouble, but you need to learn about the possible pitfalls before you have to start making the momentous decisions. So we don't get too into your business to begin with. With Joanna, we blew it big time. Because she was so magical, we all made a pact to keep her from harm, trials, tribulations. And that's what blinded us to what was happening. Whoo, boy, did I luck out when I won her assignment. Plum, I thought. She's going to be a piece of cake. Yeah, death by chocolate cake, it turns out. See, she was part human and part fairy, so no one thought she would ever have any issues with belief. She was so strong with magic that we all thought she was going to be a boon to the magic realms. She was going to bring us notice in a good way. In other words, no one could have foreseen this. And now we'd all been caught with our proverbial pants around our collective ankles. Since I've taken you back to the beginning with this whole explanation, I guess I'm going to have to go back there myself. Crud. That's going to mean a trip through the portal. I don't like traveling through the portals anymore. They take you exactly where you want to go, so you'd better know where that is, because if you think of anything but the exact place and time you need to reach, you'll end up there instead. One time, Rhea Bird of Fishstocking, a level 3 FG who should have known better, made the mistake of thinking about ice cream right as she stepped into a portal, and she ended up buried in pralines and cream with whipped cream on top. We had to wait until it all melted to get her out of there. Those portals may look all spherical and clear and harmless in movies like The Wizard of Oz, but let me tell you, harmless, they're not. Ooh, hang on, water break. Hi, everybody. Hi, June. Hi, Barbara. Hi, Sarah. I hope that you are enjoying this. I should show you the cover of the book. Hold on. Can I reach it? Maybe I can. Yeah. Woohoo! Ooh, this copy of the book has been on the floor, so it's got cat hair all over it. But I can show you the cover. So this right here is Joanna, and you can see the fire fairies. This is Layli and this is Torlin. And you can see that they're made out of fire. They're little bodies. One of the things I love about this book, it takes place, as you can tell, in New York. But can you see the super cool ghost of the violin? The cover artist on this book just did an incredible job. She also did the cover for the second book, and she did an amazing job there too. So, alrighty, let us move on. I hope you're liking this, by the way. This is so much fun for me. I have not read my book out loud in ages, so that's pretty cool. Let's see. I've got a little bit of time to do this. All right, so let's go back to the previous line. The portals may look all spherical and clear and harmless in movies like The Wizard of Oz, but let me tell you, harmless, they're not. I made my way along the lavender corridor outside the tribunal chambers and started the long trek to the portal station. The walls changed colors depending on the mood of those who were in the hallway. My mood was taking a sour turn, and the walls reflected it with a shade of puce that looked just as gross as its name sounds. Sorry for the color change, I said to no one in particular. I'm having a day. I got to Portal Haven and signed in at the podium. We're not allowed to take portal joyrides. Portals are serious business, young lady. Don't you play around with them, was said to me more than once when I was younger. So, back about 75 years ago, they instituted a voice print and wand check to make sure that those using the portals were on official business. Evening Star Songbottom, Fairy Godparent, Level 3, I said into the microphone as I waved my wand over the sensor. Good evening, Evie, replied the voice in the speaker. Where will you be headed? Hey, Tabitha, I replied to today's portal guardian. I need a both time and space portal. St. Nicholas Hospital, Sheboygan, Wisconsin, first quarter moon in Leo in the most recent year of the Falcon. That's May 1st, 19 years ago, for those of you playing along at home. That'll take a minute to set up, Evie. Why don't you go relax at the storm for a bit and I'll drop you a line when I'm set up. That'd be just great, I exclaimed. Then I could travel drunk, think something stupid like I could go for another Jameson's while in portal process and wind up in an Irish whiskey factory instead of where I wanted to go. See, the portals make room for the possibility that you can travel through time and space. They create an environment that is conducive to that kind of travel, but you have to do the work of traveling, if you see what I mean. Evie, you don't have to have whiskey. Tabitha easily read my mind. You can have a hot cocoa or some juice. Right, absolutely, some juice. I replied, already dreaming about 27-year-old cask-aged whiskey. No, I had a job to do. I would sit in the waiting room and, wait. Okay, Tabby, just give a buzz when you're ready. I'll be right here. St. Nicholas, I thought as I made my way to a chair. Bother. Well, I'd have to go just to see if anything out of the ordinary happened during her birth and the contest. I mean, look at Aurora of Sleeping Beauty fame. One jealous fairy at her birth ceremony and everything got all kerflunked. It took ages to straighten that one out, and often I think that it still isn't copacetic. Sometimes I wonder if the tales from our diaries ended up making it harder for everyone to kick ass and take names because they're so full of people who need to be bailed out of jams. Then again, if you all could take care of yourselves all the time, we FGs would be out of a job. Besides, I had others depending on me now. Torlin, Laylee, and Elnora, not to mention Joanna herself. And goodness knows I didn't want to give the tribunal any reason to unleash the Ramrocks. They weren't particularly subtle when it came to enforcing our laws. They tended to obliterate first and ask questions later. My wand buzzed like the proverbial cell phone at a theater and interrupted my flow of thoughts. Mine, I called out automatically. Evie, your portal jump is set up. Head over to slot 7 and you're good to go. Be right there. I hoisted myself from the chair. Somewhere along the line, Joanna developed an overly trusting nature. It was characteristic of her to be kind, gentle, and full of wonder. But there's such a thing as being too trusting and too loving. She had been both, and with the wrong people. I was pretty sure of that. Hang on. I was pretty sure that... I love it. My brain. I was pretty sure that in and of itself, being loving wasn't the flaw. In fact, I'd bet that it was the whole choosing the wrong people to trust thing that had gotten us in this mess. Her sense of magic should have protected her from those choices, but it hadn't. And now I had to figure out why and what to do about it. So back to St. Nicholas's it was. Portal Haven can be a bit startling to new FGs. From the outside of any chamber, it's so pretty with silver swirls of stardust and yada yada. Oh, and we think it's actual stardust, as in from light years and light years away, but no one has ever confirmed or denied it officially. See, the little stardust, they seem all lovely and magical, but honestly, the second you walk into your chamber, you start losing some of your bits. You become incorporeal because as those hurtling dust particles touch you, they take a piece of you with them until there's nothing left of you except your mind. Then, when you're all ethereal and stuff, you have to focus on where you want to go. The dust carries you there and reconstructs you at your destination. So you see, while the container keeps all your bits contained, it takes a fair bit of work to keep from losing your head and all the sparkling pretties. You know that old bumper sticker that says, of all the things I've lost, it's my mind I miss the most? Well, that's one of ours, and for good reason. It's not pretty trying to reconstruct an FG whose mind has gone off traipsing about while the body is flying around on billions of particles of dust. It can take a while to reconstruct the body, but coaxing the mind back can be an ordeal. I remember it took some time and not a few hot cocos with animal-shaped marshmallows to coax Jiminy Wetfeather's mind back to his body after a little trip to South Africa to watch over the filming of Out of Africa. He's the FG to that hottie Robert Redford. Hey, don't get in my face about it. You have your hotties and I have mine. And he needed to be sure that all was well with him, don't you know? We all knew he just wanted to go there so he could drink Amarula. Hey, if it was good enough for the elephants to drink, get drunk, and fall down, it was good enough for him. At the end of the check-in trip, his mind stayed along the southern coast of Africa. He had a dandy time surfing. Yes, of all things, surfing. It's pretty easy to surf with your mind. All you have to do is to imagine yourself on the edge of a surfboard that's being piloted by a human surfer, and you'll be riding the waves like crazy. Some might say it's cheating, but I say, what the heck if you can get away with it? Most surfers won't even notice the extra little weight. Good surfers might notice something, but even they usually attribute it to a few many beers the night before. I made my way to slot 7 as I mentally prepared myself for the trip. You have to have a little mantra, so you think only of that. 113 at St. Nicholas's on the Green. 113 at St. Nicholas on the Green, I thought. If I could keep that in my head long enough to get in and pull through, that'd be just dandy. See, the sad thing is that it's true that we're all a bit challenged in the keep your head in the game arena. Remember how J.M. Barrie said that Tinkerbell was so small that she only contained one emotion or thought in her at one time? Well, it's true, and size has nothing to do with it. We're just hardwired that way. We can only hold one thought, and we're easy to distract away from it. I call it the shiny pretty thing syndrome. 113 at St. Nicholas on the Green, I repeated as I stepped up to portal chamber slot 7 and faced the fairy recognition box. Evening Star Songbottom, Fairy Godmother, Level 3, reporting for porting, I said into the rectangular microphone. The door snaked up, and I entered the chamber. Yep, here was the Stardust, all billowy and pretty and just slightly nauseating. I used to be much more up for all the excitement and the travel. Now, I just wanted to go home and put my feet up. I'd only been at the FG game a couple of 100 years. What did I know that could fix all this? Was I a wee bit apprehensive? You bet. I felt a bit like Ralph Cifaretto must have felt when he knew that Tony Persant... I felt a bit like Ralph I wrote this. I should be able to read it. I felt a bit like Ralph Cifaretto must have felt when he knew that Tony Soprano was gunning for him. It wasn't going to be pretty. Bada bing. I wasn't sure how I was going to clean up this mess. The spirals of stardust started swirling around me. Oops. There went a bit of my arm, and now my left shoulder. Bit by bit, little parts of me started sliding off and dancing away as the dust flittered in spirals until there was a silver maelstrom of, well, me swirling around the chamber. 113 at St. Nicholas on the Green, and suddenly I watched the flow of silver that contained my body spiral down the drain of the chamber where it would be collected in one of those big clear bubbles and complete the trip to the hospital. It'd be a lot less icky if it didn't look like I was being flushed down the toilet. The corporeal form has been transmitted, said the metallic voice of the mechanized portal keeper. Stand by for mind transport. Excellent, I thought. My body had made it fine. Now I just had to keep concentrating on my little mantra, and I'd get there just fine. 113 at St. Nicholas on the Green. 113 at St. Nicholas. I wonder what's happening on Io, slipped into my mind. I hadn't been there for a while, and those Ionians know how to party. Vaguely, I heard a bothersome mechanical buzz. Evening Star Songbottom, please concentrate on your location. Evening Star Songbottom, please concentrate on your location. The robotic gnat grew louder and more insistent as I started floating up out of the chamber. It was all good since I already was starting the journey to Io. Everything else was pretty much falling away, and I was seriously anticipating a tall glass of Krzatka at my favorite Ionian bar, the Falling Moon. I rose to the ceiling toward the night sky outside. But the stars looked beautiful, and they'd be even more numerous once I got out of Earth's pesky atmosphere. Io, darling Io, this visit was going to be legendary. Evie, come back here, Tabitha cried urgently. Evie, you need to get to St. Nicholas's. Remember the ramrocks. Remember Joanna. Uh-oh. On the Green. I finished the mantra and slammed back into the portal chamber. Believe me, You do not want to experience your mind slamming into the floor of a portal chamber. The headache will probably go away sometime next year. The portal chamber began to shrink until it was no bigger than the head of a pin. And there will be no jokes about angels and heads of pins. I mean it. Then, a slight whir sounded as the portal arm tossed the chamber into the portal wormhole, a la Star Trek Voyager. Roddenberry didn't have it wrong. They pretty much work like he said they do. You start at one end, you step, fall, or fly into it, and you come out the other end almost instantaneously. The portal chamber dropped me on top of the bubble that already waited in the grassy area outside the hospital. Nurses in surgical blues walked back in from lunch and noticed nothing amiss as they automatically skirted the bubble. This is not the FG you're looking for. Move along, move along. I misquoted Star Wars as a chamber oozed into the bubble. My mind slipped back into my body that waited with the long-suffering patience of the inanimate. Bother, I sighed. That was close. I almost messed up big time. Tabitha would have had a devil of a time coaxing me back, especially if I got a hold of a glass of Krzatka before she found me. That stuff will knock your socks off, and you won't know what hit you until at least 3 weeks after the effects wear off. Then, I realized that without my body along, I wouldn't have even been able to taste a Krzatka, much less experience some of its more therapeutic benefits. That's it, I promised myself. If I make it out of this in one piece, I'm taking an extended vacation to Io. And that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still watching, and others, ladies, gentlemen, others, non-binary folks, if you are still watching, I hope you had fun listening to the prologue and the first chapter of the Fiddler's Talisman. I had a ton of fun reading it to you. I'm excited to read starting chapter 2 tomorrow. If you did like it, if you're liking it, one more time, you can see the cover. Isn't it cool? Da-da-da! I just love it. The fire fairies are like the coolest thing. Anyway, tell me if you liked it. I would love to hear if you did. All right. See you tomorrow. Love ya. Oh, Rich, 8:30. He's going to be doing his live artwork. And tomorrow night, after reading from Fiddler's Talisman some more, which, by the way, I'm loving doing. I had no idea I was going to totally love reading the book out loud like this. This is cool. This tells me I need to go ahead and record the audiobook, and soon. But anyway, Rich is doing artwork. Tomorrow night, I'll be reading more. Chapter 2, probably Chapter 2 and 3 of Fiddler's Talisman. And at 9 o'clock, of course, is Tarot Live. All right. That's 9 o'clock tomorrow. I love ya. I'll see ya. Have a great evening. Bye.